It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Wilmington Sharks' Daniel Covington. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
So I often get asked a lot of times, like, what's my why? Why do I want to work in professional sports, even in minor league sports? And honestly, it all boils down to me to creating memories for people and families alike and groups. And nonetheless, it's something that I am very passionate about and helping people out and ultimately having them, come together in the world of sports.
What were some of your stops along your way to get you to the Wilmington Sharks?
Yeah, so it's actually been kind of a whirlwind. I've worked for several organizations already since I graduated. I've had the chance to work for the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm repping the jacket right now. I worked for the Wilson Tobs, which is a summer collegiate baseball league team here in North Carolina, as well as with a big company called Harris Bilitzer Sports Entertainment, where they owned the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils of the NHL. And also on top of that, I know kind of whirlwind effect here, the Trenton Thunder, which was the AA affiliate at the time of the New York Yankees.
Can you talk about, of course, your experience working with the Carolina Hurricanes as a special event and promotion scout?
Yeah, so that was actually my first experience in the sports industry, and I was very fortunate enough to do it. We did a lot of community initiatives throughout the area, whether it's golf tournaments or, reaching out to schools, you name it. We were in there with the mascot basically 3 to 4 times a week, just reaching out to as many people in the Triangle area. There's a lot of places to go, whether it's in Cary, Chapel Hill, Durham, or even in Raleigh. Just reaching out to as many people as we can. We did a bunch of plaza parties, did all the promotions on the ice for all the Hurricanes home games, and it was a total blast. It's almost a year that I'll never forget.
What was your roles and responsibility as a promotional staff for the Carolina Hurricanes?
Yeah. So yeah, like I mentioned, we did all the different community events that the Hurricanes had. We had this big old trailer that we would take to different various events that would have like a replica of the Stanley Cup in it from when the Hurricanes won in 2006. We take the mascot Stormy, and then we also had a side mascot named Caroline. They're the two ice hogs of the Carolina Hurricanes. So we took them everywhere we could. We did all the on ice promotional events during the intermissions, pregame, postgame. We did a little bit of everything. All the different concourse intercepts we made with all sorts of different people in the stands, just getting them more involved, making sure that they know that we're very fortunate to have them out at the games.
What was it like whenever you got the job as the intern for sports management with the Wilson Tobs?
Yeah. So before I graduated from North Carolina State University, you're required to do a 400-hour internship in order to graduate. And it was actually my last semester in school. I was fortunate enough to get hooked up with the GM there, Mike Bell. He's a great guy. And I worked for them for, I think, 4 or 5 months during my spring semester. A little bit about that position. I did everything from working the press box, setting up outfield signage to making sales calls. I kind of did everything, even as far as to flipping burgers on the concession stand. It was a lot of fun, and it's something I won't forget either.
What was your time like working with the New Jersey Devils as a sales associate?
Yeah. So after I graduated, I had a couple offers on the table, and I decided to take my talents up to Philadelphia. It was definitely a culture shock for me. Growing up in a town of only about 200 people down here in southeastern North Carolina to go in the big hustle and bustle of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania was a big culture shock for me. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to get hooked up with Harris Bilitzer Sports Entertainment, which my primary roles with them were to sell full season, partial season, suites, and even group tickets to various people throughout the area to New Jersey Devils games. It was a lot of fun. We went through a grueling but yet rewarding process of going through about 2.5 weeks of training. And then it was just like, hit the ground running from then on out. I made a lot of lifetime friends that, I'll carry on with the rest of my life from that organization. And honestly, it was kind of like a leap of faith, and I'm so glad I took it.
It's so amazing. Of course, what were your roles as a group sales responsive for the Trenton Thunder?
Yeah, so my roles as a group sales account executive for the Trenton Thunder. My primary role is obviously sell group tickets to various different groups in the Trenton Mercer County area. Reach out to churches, schools, you name it, Rotary clubs, Lions clubs. You can make a group out of everything. And that was my primary role, but at the same time, it was also just to represent the Thunder as best as I could, whether it was through community initiatives or whatever it may be. That was kind of like a little bit of a gist of what I did there.
Of course, what was it like whenever you came back to North Carolina and went to Wilmington to work with the Wilmington Sharks as group sales?
Yeah, so it was actually kind of a whirlwind. As everyone knows, COVID hit last year. And it kind of happened at a fortunate time for me because my lease ended at the same time. So I kind of decided to move back home to North Carolina, kind of reassess myself. I actually worked for a fish organization for the past up until December of 2020, just trying to get my bearings and waiting for the sports industry to get back together. And then come January this year, I was like, hey, I want to get my feet back into the sports organization and the sports industry as a whole. And I reached out to various different organizations. Wilmington Sharks posted, it was like a message sent from heaven. They posted a job on Teamworks Online, and I was like immediately interested. I mean, I grew up going to Sharks games. Obviously, I've been out to Buck Hardy Field more times than I can count. And just having the opportunity to talk to their new GM and then their owner and everything like that, and feeling like it was really more of a family atmosphere that I could really see myself a part of. And fortunately enough, here a couple weeks back, I started, and I'm loving every second of it since.
That's so amazing. What is it like selling group tickets for the Wilmington Sharks?
Yeah, so I'm still fairly new to it. I'm still getting my feet wet, but nonetheless, I've heavily self-prospected various churches and performance groups, like karate studios or dance studios and whatnot, schools, you name it. I've just been reaching out to as many people as I can, letting them know that we're having baseball this summer, and that we're excited. I welcome them back out to the Shark Tank this year, and just letting them know that we're there for them and we're there to help out in any way that possible.
What is a typical game day like for you as a group director of group sales?
So I haven't yet experienced a game day yet, but I can kind of talk about like my experience, obviously going to Sharks games in the past. But nonetheless, our home opener this year is on May 27th, and we couldn't be more excited to welcome fans out to the Shark Tank. I'm pretty sure my roles are to, if I have groups out, obviously take care of them, make sure their needs are met, let them know that I'm there for them. Nonetheless, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get into the concessions at some point or another, maybe even do some on-field promotions, and then even bust out some sales calls in the morning before the game. Whatever it may be, I just want to, reach out to as many people as I can and obviously grow the Sharks brand.
Whenever it does come to promotions, what do you look forward to accomplishing once you get that opportunity to go back into promotions?
Yeah, so obviously promotions are near and dear to my heart. It's what I started off in sports with the Carolina Hurricanes, and obviously, just seeing the smiles on families or kids or whoever it may be faces, even if it's giving them a little, rubber puck or whatever it may be, or maybe even giving them one of those little mini bats with the Sharks logo on it, just making a person's day and seeing the love that they share for the game that you care about as well just light up at that very moment. It's what makes it all that much more worth it. I mean, again, that's my why, is to ultimately help out as many people as I can and to make those memories that'll last a lifetime.
Of course, if you get the opportunity to work in promotions for the Wilmington Sharks, what are some of your most important ideas that you might come out with?
Shoot, that's a tough one. I mean, the Sharks do a pretty good job with promotions as is. I don't want to share a little bit too much information on what we have planned for the summer of this year, but nonetheless, various different things to get the fans involved while we have a break on the field or whatever it may be, whether it's like, the Dizzy Bat races, that's always been a fan favorite of mine. Different, concourse interactions to get people, involved more with the Wilmington Sharks. Because it's easy to go to a baseball game and be like, oh, I love baseball, but it's more or less adding that added value at the end of the day that really gets people in and ultimately makes them love coming out to the ballpark. It's more of an entertainment aspect whenever it comes down to it. But yeah, definitely promotional nights are big. I've always loved bobbleheads. Bobbleheads are one of my favorite things. I have a huge collection of them. And so different promotional events to just bring people out, implementing new ideas and being a part of it's great.
That's amazing. What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before working in sales in sports?
Specifically in sales, I'd say how difficult it was. I mean, obviously I had a background in promotions and special events, and then even delved into tiny bit in sales with Wilson, but primarily I was like operations and did a whole bunch of things. But then moving up to Philadelphia and making that transition to a full-time sales role, it's kind of like a punch in the mouth. At times they always say that sales is super grinding, and it really is. It's very demanding. And then working in different markets, you obviously, tailor to the needs of the various different clients that you're reaching out to. It's not for everyone, but nonetheless, like if you find yourself to be a self-motivated individual who really loves sharing and telling stories, I'd say sales is, potentially a good fit. It's definitely a grind. It's definitely a grind. I mean, when I worked for the New Jersey Devils, we would bust out 100 calls, 100 emails, and then try to have at least 2.5 hours of talk time on a daily basis. But nonetheless, there were days where, I would have upwards of 300 calls on a daily basis just to reach out and just let people know that you're there for them. And then being hung up on, et cetera, is very tough, but you take it with a grain of salt. You just pick up the phone and dial the next person.
What advice would you give upcoming people looking to work in sports?
Yeah, probably, and this is something that hits home well with me. For anyone that's watching out there, literally, don't give up. I mean, I'm an NC State graduate. Obviously, Jim Valvano lives deep in my veins. The "don't give up, don't ever give up," speech that he gave at the ESPYs. But nonetheless, like you're going to get kicked down, you're going to get beat down, and people are going to tell you, like when you're in college, like don't pursue a career in sports. You don't get paid enough. You don't do this. It's hard to even get a position. Just don't give up. I mean, I never gave up, and I consider myself to have been very fortunate to work in sports for various years now. And it was easy for me to get down and be like, hey, COVID-19 hit last year, and obviously everyone's like, hey, don't even attempt to get back in sports, but I did. And I'm very fortunate every single day that whenever I get to drive up to the office with the Sharks and be able to work for such a great organization like that. And it's just more or less like a lot of people want to tell you no. A lot of people want to tell you not to follow it, but if you're very passionate about it and you want to do it, then do it.
So amazing. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Wilmington Sharks at?
Wilmington Sharks, we're on Twitter. We're on Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Definitely add us. If you're interested in coming out to a game, if for some odd reason you live in southeastern North Carolina or at least semi-close, reach out to me. My email is daniel@wilmingtonsharks.com. It's fairly simple. But nonetheless, we're on all the major social medias, and hopefully here soon we'll be on TikTok too as well, because I know everybody loves TikTok. But nonetheless, I think it's ILM Sharks is our Twitter handle, and then on top of it, you just look up Wilmington Sharks on like Facebook, and you can find us.
That's amazing. Where are you located out on social media?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shoot. I think my Twitter handle's @Daniel_Sharks. I'm pretty sure, at least I'm fairly sure. But other than that, you can obviously just look up my name. I have a little graduate photo from me at NC State on it. And then on top of that, just look up my name on Facebook if you want to add me. I'm always welcome. Daniel Covington. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. So
thank you again, Daniel Covington, for your interview, and best of luck with the Wilmington Sharks.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. It's been a pleasure.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Daniel, for your interview, and best of luck.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.